You are listening to the Fitz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitzgerald, also known as Lauren Fitz. I'm a medical doctor, a fitness instructor, an entrepreneur, a health and fitness coach, but most importantly, I am a lover of life. And here on the Fitz and Healthy podcast, I intend to give you a ton of great information and knowledge that will serve as potential power so that you can live a life by design and make it more fits and healthy. And don't forget to listen to the disclaimer at the end. I'm not your doctor, yo. All right, enjoy the episode. Much love. Ciao. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hi, girls. Hey, and boys. What's up, y'all? How's it going? So hopefully already, even before we went live, we already have some questions, and I had to already correct someone because we had TT Brown said, I want to lose belly fat. How do I lose it? And Hind Abrashi, I know I just chopped up your last name and I apologize, said, stop eating fats. And I said, nope, you're wrong. And we will address that. Skirt. So happy Friday, everyone. My name is Dr. Lauren Fitz, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Cinthanie from Cinthanie.com. And notice I said Cinthanie, not symphony, like you listen to music. Yeah. So this is our third Friday, and I just want to give a shout out to everyone that all of the feedback that we've gotten in the first 3 weeks of the podcast, like speechless.
Yeah. Totally.
We recorded, so we on Friday is our podcasting day, right? So we usually record 1 to 2 episodes, and we were going to record 2 episodes about 2 different topics. One of the topics I decided was going to be over the thyroid gland because I did a live broadcast earlier this week that created a bunch of buzz regarding thyroid cancer and the connection to Mountain Dew. And in fact, Cinthanie, I just realized we didn't even broach that. And we didn't broach how excessive exercise can affect thyroid.
Maybe we need to do a part 3.
Right? So y'all literally, so we had to do this in 2 parts. So we only did a thyroid one. And we had to cut it into 2 parts because literally we talked for 2 hours. And our weekly podcasts that are released every Monday, I like to keep them between an hour to an hour and 15 is our longest one so far.
Yeah.
So we're cutting that up. The thyroid episode, it's going to be part 1 and part 2, but there's a lot of great stuff. And just after the podcast already, Cinthanie, I was like, oh, we forgot to address this and we forgot to address that.
There's so much information to be shared though about any topic, but especially that. So
yeah. Well, like you said, it's a hot topic, and it's a hot topic for a reason. So the fact is that we have a ton of questions. Already we have some questions on YouTube and on Facebook. And so we're live in both places. And for those of you that may be joining us for the very first time, we plan on doing this every Friday at 3 p.m. Central Standard. Now, you guys, usually you'll see both my face and Cinthany's, but every now and then it will just be me and the person I interview. And next Friday is one of those times. And next Friday is a live Q&A that you do not want to miss.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know who Chris Downing is, well, one, I don't know where you live. You need to get outside of under the rock that you're living in. This gentleman is a personal trainer who has trained NFL athletes, NBA athletes, and athletes of all different types, and not just athletes, but I mean, he's trained anyone that wants training in Ohio. I don't remember what city. I think he's in Dayton, Ohio. I don't remember, but he was selected to be the next super trainer for the company in which Cinthanie and I both coach with, called Beachbody. And his program called the Shift Shop is being released this summer. And I'm in the test group right now. I'm finishing up week 2. It's an amazing program, and I get to interview him. I'm actually driving to LA. Where I live in Southern California is about 45 minutes from LA. So I'm not in LA, but I'm going to drive to LA and interview him for a podcast episode. And then we're going to do a live Q&A for you guys. So this time next Friday, if you have questions, you best be here because he will be answering them live. And it's going to be a Q&A that you do not want to miss.
Yeah.
And not to mention, he's really, really attractive.
He's not hard on the eyes.
I mean, really, I'm not going to complain when I'm sitting across from him. I'm just saying. I mean, he may or may not be my type, but but he lives in Ohio, so that's all I'm going to say. No, but seriously, he's a super great guy, very humble. He has every reason to have a huge ego and be full of himself, and he's the exact opposite of that. He's super inspirational. He really cares about helping people and is just in line with what Cinthanie and I believe and want to achieve, and making people shift their mind so that they can shift everything else in their life. And so that's hence the name Shift Shop. So okay. So our goal, we were talking about this earlier, Cinthanie, that we want to have the FITz Friday Q&A, which y'all should start using that hashtag FITz Friday Q&A. We want to keep it between 30 and 45 minutes. And the one that was released today on your podcast episode 1, we want you to go download that because that helps us out. And 2, that is the episode that we recorded live last week. So if you want to get in and have a live question with us, then the best way to do it is to meet us here at 3 p.m. Central Standard every Friday.
Yeah.
And we definitely do shout outs. We'll call your name if your question is the one that's being asked. And we have a lot of questions. So we're going to try. And I think Robert said we average about answering about 10 questions. So we try and answer as many as possible, but I want to keep this between about 30 and 45 minutes. So
Cool.
So first things first, do you have a question that you want to start with? Because I know I just tagged you on Facebook, like we need to address this one, and I don't even remember which one it was. You remember?
Oh, I took a screenshot of it. I'm glad you said that. Let me find it and I'll pull it up.
Because so checking in between recording, I checked on my Facebook page and someone had asked a question that it was specific for thyroid. So I think it has to do with exercise. Go ahead. Tell who asked it.
I have it. Okay, so Courtney Steckler asked, is there a way to balance hypothyroidism with exercise and healthy eating, or is it a medication only thing?
Great question. And actually it was when I read her question, I'm like, we didn't talk about this. Dang. Well, we kind of talked about it, but I just read Brittany Yarborough's comment. Lauren, you look so pretty. Well, thank you. This is like the only day that Cinthanie and I wear makeup. I'm just saying. The rest of the days, we don't wear makeup.
Yes, exactly.
the beauty of working from home. Okay, so that being said, great question. 1, obviously, we're going to go way into depth in the part 1 and part 2 episodes of the Fitz and Healthy podcast where we talk about the thyroid. But one thing that I do want to address is that one way that you can jack up your hormones and thyroid hormone is one of the most important they're all important hormones, but thyroid hormone is one of the most important hormones that if it gets out of whack, it affects everything. And one way to jack it up is over exercise. And those of us that are type A that if this is good, a lot of it's better. And that's not always the case. And I know that I have definitely had multiple times in my life where I have over-exercised, one, because I was trying to out-exercise, whatever I ate that day, because, I believed that for so long, but you can't out-exercise a bad diet.
Yeah.
Just saying. That being said, you can heal your thyroid and make it function better, if not completely get off of medicine with natural techniques. But the one thing that I do want to address that I didn't address in our 2-hour part 1 and part 2 episode of thyroid is over exercising and over stressing your body, because ultimately, like we talked about in the episode, the biggest trigger to trigger autoimmune disorders and thyroid is most times it's autoimmune in nature. The biggest trigger is stress. And when you do killer workouts or workouts that are, for a long time every day, your body wasn't designed for that. And so your body goes into essentially protection mode, and it slows down everything. And so like for instance, and I'm not against CrossFit because I've seen CrossFit do some great things, but I
Yeah.
definitely have seen a lot of females that have gotten into CrossFit that have
Mm.
jacked with their hormones because of too much exercise.
Sure.
And that's just one of the, I mean, I could name a lot of them, but the proper amount of exercise is important, but nutrition, nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's one of the biggest keys that you can do. And we talked about this in the episode.
Yeah.
If I have someone that is on thyroid medicine and they're asking me, Lauren, if there's one thing that I can change, the first thing that I would say is cut out grains. And
Yes.
it's because 88% of people that have hypothyroid, so that means under functioning thyroid. So your thyroid gland that's in your neck doesn't produce enough thyroid hormone. Most of the time, it's autoimmune in nature. And 88% of those people with hypothyroidism that took out grains in their diet felt better.
Yeah.
And if you want to keep going, grains, dairy, 80% of hypothyroid patients felt better once they took out dairy. And then let's go on to sugar and soy. Those four categories of food, you'll be amazed at how you feel. The day that you feel best, multiply it by 100, and that's how you're going to feel. People don't realize how much their food affects them. What were you going to say, something?
There are other food groups besides those. Like, it probably sounds like there's nothing left to eat, but I promise, like, there's other food out there that don't fall into those categories.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got a ton of questions. So where do we start?
Okay, so stick around too if stick around. If you ask a question, typically there's a little bit of a delay, so we're getting to the question a little bit later than you think. Doesn't mean we've ignored your question. It just means we'll get to it in a minute. So if you peace out, I'm not going to answer your question because you're not around to listen to it.
Exactly.
There is a question from AMAC. It says, I just started listening and I want to start following a high fat diet that you all have been recommending, but I have loads of food allergies, so I can't eat nuts or avocado or so many other things.
Oh, I love both of those foods.
I know, right?
Okay.
So I think that it sounds like what they're asking for is suggestions on how to eat a higher fat diet without incorporating those things.
Okay, that's a great question. So one, a lot of food allergies can be made better by starting and looking at the gut, because a leaky gut and unhealthy gut biome lead to multiple things like autoimmune disorders, like food allergies, like cancer, like inflammation in general. And so the first thing that I would do is start looking at how to heal your gut. That being said, just because avocado, like, I can't not imagine if I was allergic to avocado. That's like
that's a nightmare.
Yeah, I know. Like, if that's not my number one favorite food, it's close to being my number one favorite food.
Yeah.
And I love me some nuts. I snapped about that today or yesterday. How about these nuts? Love me some nuts. Sorry. So, well, now I showed how to make a healthy, because, okay. So what I did was, like, using literally 3 or 4 ingredients, I made this healthy equivalent of, it tasted like chocolate brownie and walnut, like, batter, like not baked brownie, but like the batter that you'd make right before you bake it. It was amazing. And I used Shakeology and I used walnuts, and that's when I was like, how about these nuts? And I got quite a few people personally snapping me back. So, but that would be where I would start. And one thing that I heard it wrong, or maybe it's probably I heard it wrong, but in her question, I'm not sure if she said high fat versus higher fat, because
she said high fat. Okay.
So that's a clarification I want to make sure that people know, is that higher fat, because for decades, the government, our ADA, they've recommended a low fat diet. So we both practice a higher fat diet. So that means that it's higher than the like 20% or 25% that the government has recommended for the past however many decades, because they believed the false research that fat leads to heart disease, which is actually all wrong.
Yeah.
And we will do a whole episode just on that. Haven't yet. But that being said, the way in which Cinthanie and I both eat is a higher fat, lower carbohydrate, but we don't eat a ketosis type diet.
Yeah.
Do I get in ketosis every now and then? Absolutely.
Yeah,
I try and do a full 24-hour fast about once a week. And we'll talk about the reason why we do that in an upcoming episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast. And so during that 24-hour fast, am I in ketosis? Absolutely. But do I stay in ketosis like a lot of you guys are hearing, because that's very trendy right now?
Yeah.
No, I personally don't. And there's a few reasons. I mean, I'm all about, well, both Cinthanie and I are about learning healthy lifestyles that can stick forever. Because if you can't see yourself doing whatever it is that person is telling you to do the rest of your life, it's not going to stick. I mean, really, like, I won't say the company name, but I'm not going to put a patch on my arm every day the rest of my life to get my vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. I'm just not going to. I don't like the sticky stuff that's underneath it anyway. But but you know, the fact is that if you don't learn how to make these healthy lifestyle changes, make it a lifestyle, it's just going to be that. It's going to be a quick fix, and it's going to go back probably worse than what it was before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
Next question.
Okay, so Jamie Treese wants to know, how often should we have our thyroid levels checked by a doctor? I've had half my thyroid removed because of nodules.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so one, how often you should check it. So I think annual is adequate unless you're having a change in symptoms. In the episode, the part 1 and part 2, we talk about symptoms of hyper and hypothyroidism. Obviously, the most common one is hypo, the one under functioning thyroid. The other thing that you got to realize is that not all doctors are created equal. And I would highly recommend, and I realize that not everyone lives in a place that they have access to a functional medicine doctor, but if you can find a functional medicine doctor that is of the mindset of, I'm only going to put you on drugs after trying natural remedies to get your whatever problem under control, because so much of your thyroid imbalance can be made better by changing your nutrition, by changing your habits, by changing what you're exposed to. You know, like, for instance, one thing that we talked about on the thyroid episode was men are less commonly affected by thyroid disease than women. But if I have a dude that comes to me and is like, I've got symptoms of low thyroid, two of the first things that I think about are you exposed to mold or are you exposed to Lyme disease? And that can be true for men or women, but those are potential triggers. And so sometimes a functional medicine doctor would definitely be able to ask questions and make sure that you haven't been exposed to Lyme disease, because a lot of people don't even know what Lyme disease is. And if you live in the northeast of the United States and you go camping a lot, you don't even have to go camping a lot, but if you've been bit by a tick that has the microorganism that causes Lyme disease, and then you're having all these unspecific symptoms that are, a traditional Western doctor will easily overlook it and will just go straight to, here's your Synthroid prescription and be on your way and we'll talk. Versus a functional medicine doctor will be like, okay, let's look at the whole picture and see what we can change so that we can get you off of that. And another thing that I want to make a point of is that once you start to change the things, like, let's say that this person, she has half of her thyroid. So I'm guessing that she probably most likely take some sort of thyroid hormone. When you start to change your nutrition and your environment and the toxins that could potentially be suppressing your thyroid, we call them endocrine disruptors. So one example is like BPA, and like there's quite a few endocrine disruptors that are in our environment. And we talked about some of those in the podcast, obviously, like fluoride and mercury.
Yeah.
But if you start to get a handle on those things, then the dose of medicine that you're on is going to go from a good dose to now it's too much. And then you'll start to have symptoms of hyperthyroidism. And I don't want you to think that, oh, I'm doing something wrong. It's just, no, you need to get your medicine reevaluated. And that's when more than once a year is probably going to be required as you're finding out the fine-tuned dose. Because if you have no thyroid, you will always have to be on some sort of thyroid hormone, because you cannot live without thyroid hormone.
Yeah.
So the people that have had their thyroid removed because of cancer, whether it be, any kind of nodule, whether it be malignant or benign, that led to a total thyroidectomy, Graves' disease or hyperthyroidism that wasn't, responding to medicine. Any reason why you had your thyroid taken out, you will have to be on hormone therapy the rest of your life. But that doesn't mean that dose will always be the same. And when you change everything, you have to be sensitive to the fact that your dose might need to go down. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what's next?
There's another hyperthyroid question. So I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah,
When this is Courtney Steckler. She said, when you talked about no grains to help with hyperthyroidism, is that because of the gluten? Can I use gluten-free pasta?
That's a great question.
It's a really good question.
So I know you can answer this. Go for it.
Well, I would say no grains, no gluten, period.
Correct. And the reason why is because one of the ways that big food companies trick us is that they make us think that because a food is labeled gluten-free, it doesn't have any of the agglutinins that are proteins that cause this reaction in the body. And so there are, I believe, 88 different kinds of gluten proteins, but the one that's the most commonly found in food is the one that if it's present in a food, that food cannot be called gluten-free. But guess what? If it has any of the 87 other kinds, it can be called gluten-free as long as it doesn't have that one most common.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that make you mad?
Yeah. They have ways that they can label things that skirts really around what it actually is. So
Exactly. Just like the way the food labeling of natural flavors. Like, if you knew that part of your natural flavors was from an anal gland of a beaver.
Oh, that's where vanilla comes from. It's so gross.
Yeah. Did y'all know that?
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, the more you learn, the more you realize, like, it's so important to know, to read ingredients and to know what the ingredients mean, because there's so many loopholes and tricks that these big food companies have come up with so that they can basically deceive you into buying that product thinking that, oh yeah, it's healthy.
Yeah.
It's not natural flavors. Yeah. From an anal gland of a beaver.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No.
No thanks.
No. Okay. So next.
There is one question. It's from Hind Abuarisha. I don't know how to say your last name.
That's the one that said eat less fat.
Right. But now she's asking, I'm one of the skinniest girls alive. What can I do to have a good body, not bones?
Oh, weight training, girl. Weight training. That is the best way to form your body. All of you ladies that are out there that are scared to lift weights, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Okay.
Don't be scared.
The fact is, so many females don't lift weights because they see these female bodybuilders on these magazines and they're like, oh my God, I don't want to look like that, so I'm never going to lift a weight. No, guys, those women take exogenous steroids. So exogenous means out from outside of your body. So they either shoot it up or they take pills, but those are not natural hormones that those women take. And I don't know, I really don't understand why they take them, but whatever. I'm not here to judge. It's judge-free zone. But the fact is that as long as you are not taking exogenous hormones, you will not look like the thing that you're scared of looking. The best way to sculpt your body is weight training, honestly. But weight training has to be combined with good, healthy diet. And so if you're feeding your body with low fat food and with processed foods and a lot of sugar and a bunch of franken foods, you're not going to look or feel your best.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. Next question. Oh, someone asked if I could speak Spanish. Por supuesto. That was Clo Love 123 Sí, estuve en España para 6 meses. Por supuesto. Okay, go on.
What? I didn't know you were fluent. Kendra Miley wants to know, my mom and my cousins are on meds for their thyroid, and is having thyroid problems genetic?
Absolutely. And we talked about that in the episode.
Yeah.
You having a first or second degree relative that has anything like thyroid disease or celiac or whatnot does make you more prone. But we're going to have an episode where we talk about this big word called epigenetics, where essentially you are given a set of genes by your mom and your dad, right? And your genes they guide which direction you go in life, but they're not your destiny. I.e., if both your parents are morbidly overweight, morbidly obese, that doesn't mean that you're doomed to that.
Yeah.
But it's nature versus nurture. So you have these genes, and let's say that it's the thyroid gene, right? And initially it's in the off position, okay? But you are exposed to, let's say, gluten, and because you've got a leaky gut, and all of a sudden you're having these inflammatory reactions, and all of a sudden that gene that gives you the propensity to have hypothyroidism is turned on. That light switch is turned on. That doesn't mean that once it's turned on, it will always be on.
Yeah.
But you definitely, your genes, you have to respect your genes, and the fact, and even if we talked about this in the episode, because most of the women on my mom's side have thyroid disease, and knowing that, I would still eat the way I do, even if I didn't have thyroid disease in my family, just because of cutting out gluten, cutting out dairy, sugar. Like, there's so many other reasons, not just thyroid health.
Yeah.
So okay, what other questions do we got?
So, Courtney Lindblom wants to know, in a past episode, you talked about gut health and its connection with depression. Does this connection also apply to mental illness such as anxiety, or is it just specific to depression only?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great question, Courtney. In fact, a lot of the psychiatric disorders have so much, the brain health. There's actually a book that I haven't read yet, but this guy, I highly respect him. If you don't listen to his podcast, it's called Bulletproof Radio. You may have heard me. I've turned so many people on to Bulletproof Coffee, i.e. butter coffee. That's what a lot of people call it. But but I drink Bulletproof coffee on a regular basis. I actually order it straight from him. And he's very much on brain health. So this guy has a very unique history. So he was raised in a basement that he was inadvertently just exposed to toxic mold in the walls. He didn't know it, but that mold was the trigger. So we're talking about the gene that can be turned on or off. Well, his gene for autism and Asperger's was turned on by the exposure to toxic mold. And in fact, he did a documentary called Moldy, which I highly recommend. He, like, in his early 20s, he was not only, I think he's over 300 pounds, but had like clinical diagnosis of Asperger's, which is a severe form of autism.
Yeah.
So autism, ADHD, anxiety, depression, mood disorders, psychotic disorders, bipolar disorder, borderline, like all of these things are definitely related to gut health and our nutrition. And he has totally healed himself from all that. He no longer has the diagnosis of Asperger's. He's a highly functioning mid-40 human being that runs, multi-million-dollar companies now.
Yeah.
And he's got you should follow him for sure. I really, one of my goals is to interview him on the Fitz and Healthy podcast. It's going to happen. Just you wait.
It will.
It will.
Oh my gosh. Katie Lowe put #leave beaver butts alone.
Oh.
That's one of my coaches. Shout out to you, girl, Katie. Can you tell why she's one of my coaches?
Yes, definitely.
Love you, Katie.
What did the beaver butt do to you? There we go.
Teresa Clendenin has a comment about that, though. She said, I read that red food coloring is from a gluten. The comment just disappeared. Where'd it go? But she said that the red food coloring comes from the shell of a beetle.
Yeah, and I would stay away from all food colorings. There's there's food colorings are bad. They're bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that is actually correct. But it sounds like it is correct. Cause I've read a ton of stuff about the different, food colorings and there's different specifics on the different colors too.
Yeah.
Like for instance, one of the carbonated beverages that I actually like that is, it uses non-GMO stevia, cares about the ingredients, uses good ingredients. It's called Zevia, Zevia. Actually listened to the CEO interviewed and talking about everything. And one of the big selling points is that there's no caramel color added, because caramel color is like linked to so many different kinds of cancers and all sorts of stuff. So, and this is where, man, knowledge is power. The more you know, and you ultimately your dollar is going to be the thing that changes everything. If you keep buying that crap, they're going to keep making it. But if you don't, telling you. Okay, what's next?
Brittany Glass or Glace, I'm not sure, said, do you have any suggestions on how to have family eat healthy with me? Especially my son with his autism, he's very picky. What do I do?
Oh, that is a great question. And at the end of the day, well, first things first, you need to go to listen to episode either 3 or 4, where I talk about parenting, and then I give a little bit of tough love. And I recognize the fact that even though I was a step parent of a teenage girl, which I'm still close with Hannah, shout out to Hannah if you listen. I know she doesn't because she's not a podcast listener, but whatever, still love her. Understand what it's like to be a parent of an older child. I've never been a parent of a younger child. I had 3 step kids that were triplets, that they would come and stay with me for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. So I can sympathize on a certain level, but the fact is that at the end of the day, I'm the adult. I'm the one that makes the money. I'm the one that goes to the grocery store, and I'm the one that cooks. So it's not going to change overnight. I promise you that. It's not going to change overnight, but it can change, but you have to make the decision to change it. And it can start by, like, for instance, if the whole idea of cutting out gluten, dairy, sugar, and soy scares you, just start with gluten. Just start with gluten and you'll be amazed. And where a great resource to go is Pinterest. That's the thing. Like you said, Cinthanie, so many people think that, oh, well, what am I going to eat if I cut out all of those food groups? There's actually amazing food out there.
Yeah.
And like we said in the episode, it takes your taste buds 14 to 21 days to turn over. You can train your palate to like different foods. Doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. And, I've seen Kelsey do that and granted, Kelsey's girls are still picky, but relative to the way they were 2-3 years ago, I mean, they've come so far. And in fact, I was actually just talking with someone about it. Have you watched the documentary Fed Up yet?
Yes.
Oh, I thought
so good.
So good. It makes me angry watching it.
Exactly.
But Kelsey and her husband watched that, and then they sat down with their girls and their girls are 7 and 9, but they watched it as a family. And just because your kid is young doesn't mean that they can't learn and absorb this kind of stuff. And the sooner they start to get exposed to why what they eat is so important, it's not just you being mean and you can't have this, but hey, look, when you have these tantrums, you feel out of control. Well, those can be made a little bit better if we start eating a little bit differently. And don't underestimate what your kid can learn and what changes can make. The food companies want you to believe that the only thing that your kids are going to eat are the crap processed foods that they make money off of.
Yep.
Don't believe it.
Agreed.
And don't give up hope.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay. What else? We got time for a few more.
Is for me from Elizabeth Derby. She said, "You're getting married soon. What is your hubby-to-be's favorite meal to make?"
Ooh.
Well, his favorite meal to make isn't very healthy.
Oh, goodness.
His favorite meal to make is chicken parmesan, which is like breaded chicken with like pasta, and like he makes it very well, but he is a busy I so I typically cook. He doesn't really cook that much. He's a very good cook when he does, but he doesn't typically cook that much.
I actually have a question. Rachel Rulamas, I think, or Ruyamas. if the double L is Spanish, ruyamas or rulamas. And this is for mostly any of you dance fitness people. So those of you that follow me just for the health and fitness side, just bear with me. But this is a question that I get a ton and I want to address it. So I always get people asking me, okay, I want to essentially do what you do, but I don't want to have to get a Zumba certification because I don't really like the Zumba music and
Yeah.
And so what do you suggest I do? And that's a great question because shout out to Zumba. Zumba has changed a lot of people's lives, but I've got to be PC. They monopolize an industry. They want to monopolize it. And there's so many great dance fitness instructors that can do things other than Zumba. And so I highly encourage, don't just get a Zumba certification because that's what you think you should do.
Yeah.
First of all, I would find the facility that you want to teach and see their requirements. So a lot of facilities will just require you to have a Group X instructor certification. So like AFA. You would be surprised. Some places don't require you to have anything. And so literally you could start by becoming a FITz Pro member, getting choreography and using my choreography and literally having it be a mostly hip hop dance fitness class. And I have people tell me that they do that all the time. And they're always like, I want to call it Club Fitz. Can't I yet? And I'm like, not yet. The whole idea of me creating a certification, I go back and forth on it. Maybe in 2018, I got enough on my plate right now though. Just saying. But that being said, just because you want to teach dance fitness doesn't mean that you need to go get a Zumba certification. So I would recommend you looking into where you want to teach first and then figure out what kind of certification you need. And there's so many great resources just on YouTube alone that you can start. But also don't underestimate that taking a class and killing it and doing awesome is totally different than teaching.
Yes.
And I think people underestimate how hard it is to teach. And once you try and teach, you realize how much you took for your teacher for granted.
You get humbled real quick.
Yep. Exactly. And then the other part of the question that she sent me, and I've been asked this by a lot of people, is starting their own YouTube channel. And I get people that ask me that all the time. The fact is that I think everything has changed. I created the YouTube channel about like January, February of 2012. Well, I opened it in 2011, Robert, but I actually started uploading it in 2012. So I didn't really start learning about it until 2012 because that's I found out that we were living in Japan, found out that we were going to be stationed in OKC at Tinker Air Force Base. So I had about 3 or 4 months to get about 40 or 45 songs that I choreographed, recorded and uploaded to YouTube. And so I think I know that so much has changed with music copyright and whatnot. So it was a lot easier for me to upload songs and not worry about getting copyright strikes. But as far as I know, YouTube still has the 3 strikes you're out rule. And so if you upload a song that is in this, I don't know, magical list of copyright strikes, once you get 3 of them, you're shut down completely. And it's really hard to reverse that. I know one person that has, shout out to Nicholas. I think a lot of you guys probably, or the dance fitness people probably know his channel. He's got a great channel, but he got hit by YouTube copyright and he had a significant following already. And literally within like 2 months, he had 1, 2, and then 3. And he messaged me and was like, what do I do? And so for people that are newly starting a YouTube channel, I would do your research on which artist shell out the copyright strikes. Cause there's definitely, like, I wouldn't ever do a Taylor Swift song. Now I wouldn't ever do one anyway, but Sony artists are known for being strict. So if you have a song that you know is a Sony artist, I probably wouldn't upload that song because if anything, it'll probably get blocked. But the copyright strike is what you want to avoid. But that being said, it's a lot of work. And then the next thing I would say is, what is your intention of doing that?
Yeah.
Because you can't make money from your YouTube channel as long as you have music. And so I think so many people assume that I'm swimming in money because the YouTube channel is large, but I have not made pretty much next to nothing from that YouTube channel because it's mostly music. So people need to be aware of that. You know, what is your intention behind creating a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
So, okay. So we have time for about 1 or 2 more questions. Because of my, AMAC, so quick follow-up. Because of my allergies, my carbs are limited mostly to a few foods. Are apples, berries, bananas, huge problem on the MAID diet? Also, what about carb-free whey protein powder? Cinthanie, you want to?
So on the MAID diet specifically, so bananas are basically like the cheeseburgers of fruit.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
They have more sugar than they're worth, really. So bananas are a no. On the MAID diet specifically, you eat fruit very sparingly because you are eating a higher amount of fat, which is good, but fruit converts to sugar in your body, even though it's good stuff. And combining high fat and high sugar just does not work. So eating your fruit very sparingly if you're doing the MAID diet. And if you are eating any fruit, just stick to berries.
That's perfect advice. And also the time of day that you consume your carbohydrates, because if you're following a diet like the MAID diet, and for those of you that don't know what the MAID diet stands for, you can go to is it maiddiet.com or the MAID diet?
TheMaidDiet.com.
TheMaidDiet.com, MADE. This is we had a podcast where we interviewed both of our mentors, Melissa McAllister, who her first book was the 8-hour abs diet. Yeah, not the 8-minute abs diet, 8-hour, where she talks about intermittent fasting. That's actually how I came across Melissa McAllister, and it was just by listening to a podcast. And she's a nutrition expert in my opinion, and her MAID diet is great, but it's a higher fat, moderate protein, lower carbohydrate, 8-hour window eating. And like I was saying, a good little biohack that you can do is eating your carbohydrates later in the day. Because, and the whole reason that is because when you eat carbohydrates, it's going to cause a spike in your insulin, and the spike in your insulin causes hunger. And that's why the worst thing that you can do is what we've all believed that is best for you to do for the longest time. Breakfast being the most important meal of the day, and you go eat cereal or a yogurt or whatever. Well, you're hungry like an hour later. No wonder. First of all, breakfast, there's no scientific evidence that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's all of these food companies want you to believe that. But it's not. And so it's so funny because when we come across people that are like, oh, good, because I never feel like eating in the morning. Like you almost feel like guilty to, for the longest time, you would feel guilty if you admitted that you didn't eat first thing in the morning. Because you're listening to your body. Oh my gosh, it's crazy, right?
And it's not a no carb way of lifestyle. It's a low carb. So you still will be consuming carbs.
Exactly. And Yvonne, you said, good to know, no more bananas. I'm definitely, that's not what we're saying, but I don't want anyone to get extreme of anything, because you know what? If you're here and you're on Balboa Island and you want to get a Balboa bar or a chocolate dip banana, which they're known for, get a freaking banana.
Right. Yeah.
But I know people that put a frozen banana in every day. Those are the people that I would say, I want to. Yeah. And for me, I can totally tell a difference if I eat fruit on a regular basis or not. So I try and only eat fruit a few times a week. And when I do, it's berries. So it's the foods, the fruits that are lower in fructose and will have a less spike in my insulin. So
anything with berry in it is the best fruit to reach for. So blueberry, strawberry, raspberry, those are the best ones to reach for first.
And I would definitely spend the extra money buying organic, 100% on berries, 100% on berries. Will you apply high fat, low carb to a 12-year-old? Absolutely. Absolutely. What I want people to understand is the more whole foods you eat, the less processed food, like literally just cut out processed food. Like that's the biggest change. Try and make your plate 60 to 70% vegetables.
Yeah.
But even so, I think I heard this the other day. If you look at a pound of vegetables, there's only like 90 calories in that. So obviously you need more kcals somewhere. But if you are eating a pound of vegetables a day and then getting the rest of your caloric needs for the day from mostly fat and moderate protein, you're doing great. That's and no matter if you're 12, 22, or 72, that is healthy. I am on low carb and have thyroid problems, so I don't need the extra sugar. Absolutely. No one needs extra sugar. Sugar is poison. And in fact, if like, I've talked about this analogy, this study so many times. There's been so many studies where they've taken rats and exposed them to liquid sugar and cocaine, and then given them the option of both, and they always choose sugar. And that should be a huge red flag. Like, why I'm not a proponent that the government should control everything we do, but there are illegal drugs that don't have the same bad outcomes as sugar does. Yet sugar is very legal, but there's a lot of everything. Yeah,
everything.
I think Fed Up was the one.
Breads, everything.
Yes, the Fed Up, the documentary, which is on Netflix. Y'all should all watch it. Watch it with your family. They show a panoramic of a grocery store. And then they show what it would be like if every single food on the aisles that had sugar were taken off, and it's like 88%.
Yeah. There's like only the outline of the grocery store is where you should shop. Like the middle shelves, all of that is just processed stuff. Like just if you can stick on the outside of the grocery aisles, then that's where you want to be.
It's funny. I went grocery shopping last week, and Whole Foods is closest to me, so that's pretty much where I go. But my basket was full, and it was mostly vegetables. But my favorite brand of bacon, which is the Peterson's brand, that's Whole30 approved, that doesn't.
Bacon.
It is the best bacon. It doesn't have sugar added to it because most bacon has sugar. And so at Whole Foods, they had it on sale for $2 off a package. So your girl here grabbed 6 packages. Not even kidding. And it was funny because the cashier, as she was ringing up everything, it's funny because I thought that she might, because it's like, you would think that I'm a vegetarian as many vegetables as I got. And then she came across the bacon and she's like, so I would have thought you're a vegetarian until the bacon. What's up with that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I try and eat mostly vegetables, but I do eat a moderate amount of meat. So not a moderate, I try to stick to 60 to 70% of my plate being vegetables. And you can't go wrong with that. So, great advice on shopping on the outline of the store. I'm going to remember that. Andrea, good. Yeah, that you can't go wrong with that. Where do you guys stand on corn and peas? I don't. Corn
is a grain.
Yep, exactly.
And we say no grain. So
well, and most corn and most peas are genetically modified organisms. And a great documentary to watch for that is OMG GMO.
Yeah,
it's on Netflix as well. And it, you hear people talk about GMO and you don't really understand. Like if you understand why you should care, that's the moment that you stop buying that stuff.
Yeah.
When you realize what affect your health. So, okay, I'm looking at the time and we've already talked for 49 minutes. So next Friday, guys, I'm going to be live in LA or Santa Monica. Same difference, right? With Chris Downing. So any questions that you have for Chris Downing, you need to have ready. And if you don't know who Chris Downing is, Lord help you. That's all I'm saying.
Google it.
Yeah. Or
GTS.
Or just go to my page. I mean, I talk about him every day. So
true.
Yeah, he's a great dude, and I'm so excited about this interview for multiple reasons. Okay, I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you guys so much for spending this FITz Friday Q&A with us. And Cinthanie, what do you have to tell them?
You are a good person, and you deserve good things to happen to you.
Exactly. Hope you guys have a more Fitz and healthy day. Much love. Ciao. Make sure that you find us on social media. You can find Cinthanie on Instagram and Facebook at Cinthanie. So that's CINTHANIE, and on Snapchat at Cinthanie P. And find me on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Club Fitz Fitness. Remember, that's FITZ Fitness. And on Snapchat, just @ClubFitz. I appreciate your time listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast, can you please go do me a favor and go subscribe at whatever platform that it is that you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. We read every single review, and we appreciate the time that you take to leave your thoughts and opinions. Now, also remember, while I am a medical doctor, the information I provide here is not intended to provide medical advice or a professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. I am providing general information for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for medical or professional care. You should not use this information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. The information I share is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any disease or medical condition. If you believe you have a medical emergency, just call 911 immediately or your physician. Now, enough of that medical legal jargon. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate your time. Now go live a Fitz and healthy life.